Hello students and welcome to the lecture. So students, as we know that we are covering the voting behavior, that is a topic on which we have been discussing. All right. And basically, if we talk about the topics that we have scheduled for the discussion under this particular series, so basically like history of democracy and voting, importance of voting, historic vote, legal framework, election machinery, political landscape and party participation, election outcome, voting and approach, explanation, meaning of voting behavior, significance of voting behavior, determinants of voting behavior, and the role of media in elections and voting behavior. All right. So basically, these are the topics that we have scheduled for the discussion. All right. If we talk about the topics that we have covered so far, all right. So basically, we have done with the history of democracy and voting. Thereafter, we have done with the importance of voting. Thereafter, we have done with the historic vote, then the legal framework, then the election machinery, political landscape and the party participation, election outcome, and the voting and approach. So these are the topics that we have covered so far. If we talk about the topic that we are left with, so basically we are left with the explanation, meaning of voting behavior, significance of voting behavior, determinants of voting behavior, role of media in elections and voting behavior. All right. So that is the picture that we have created so far altogether. So basically we will start from where we had left in the previous lecture. But before this, let us remind several facts and figures. All right. So basically in the previous lecture, we have discussed the voting and approach. Like we had discussed that the people having the different reason for which they vote or not voting. All right. ECI has adopted the scientific approach to studying the voting behavior. Okay. And this is done through the Jharkhand. Then we had discussed about the nota not of the above. It means that if a voter finds that no one in the given list is the fit candidate he wishing to select it, then he could press the nota button. It means that he is not selecting any of the above. All right. Thereafter, we had discussed that whosoever is turning 18, that is the voting age in India. All right. So National Voters' Day is celebrated for them. All right. National Voters' Day celebrated for them. Okay. About the significance of voting as the civic duty. Thereafter, we had discussed about the model polling boards and all. Okay. But here I'm going to ask you one simple question. Like we are talking about the National Voters' Day. All right. So on which date we celebrate the National Voter Day? This is the question I'm going to ask you. And to answer this question, you will have only 30 seconds and your time starts now. Just think about it. On which date we celebrate the National Voters' Day? Okay, the 20 seconds have been passed off. Last 10 are remaining. Okay, the time's up. So basically we celebrate the National Voters' Day on 25th January every year. Okay. 25th January every year. Got it? After this, basically we have talked about the SWIP. Okay. That is systematic voters education and electoral participation. After this, we have talked about the EVMs. All right. And we have talked about the VPAT, voter verifiable paper audit trail. Okay. So these are the things that we had discussed in the previous lecture. Now we are going to discuss them again in the explanation part. Okay. Like in the previous lecture, we had just taken the overview of them. Okay. Whether it's a SWIP. All right. We had just discussed it. We had just taken the overview, whether it's for VPAT and whether it's for EVM. Okay. I tried to explain you for the convenience. But here we are going to discuss them in little bit more detail so that we could understand that what are the provisions written in that. Okay. So basically, if we talk about the first thing, then we can say the Election Commission of India employs the scientific approach to understand why people vote or abstain from voting. That is the main thing that we had discussed. Okay. And you can say such kind of a survey was basically first conducted in the Jharkhand. Okay. On which they received the data. Okay. So that they could form the approach that is what called the scientific approach. Thereafter, we had discussed that by getting the data, all right, like when they conducted the survey in the Jharkhand, what they received a data. On the basis of that data, basically they provided the nota option, that is the not of the above. And this option basically is there to empower the voter to express their dissatisfaction with all the candidates, emphasizing the value of each vote. Like what happened prior to this, when we talk about the eligible voters and when we talk about the pooled votes, so there was a difference, and huge difference. Why? Because suppose if someone is there in the country who is 18 years old, and you can say above 18 years, all right, there is someone in this country. Basically, there are 10 candidates contesting in the election, all right, and the person is not satisfied with all these 10 candidates. He thinks that all these 10 candidates are not as per the standards he wanted to see in the leader he is going to choose. So what will happen? He will simply do the one thing, that he would abstain from voting. Got it? He would abstain from voting. He will not vote. Got it? Then what will happen? The difference about which I have told you just now, like the eligible voters numbers and the pooled vote numbers, they will have the difference. Why? Because the eligible voters who are dissatisfied with all the candidates contesting election, they will not vote. Why? Because not getting the satisfaction with the candidate, any of them. All right. So basically, to ensure that whether the voter is satisfied with the candidate or not, he should vote. Okay. So basically, for this, the nota option that stands for the not of the above, okay, that option was introduced. It means that the person who is eligible for voting, he or she should vote. Okay. Despite that despite that he not liking the any candidate who is standing in the election, but still what will happen, if he will get the nota option, he will press nota and his vote will count. So it means that the difference between the eligible voter numbers and the pooled vote numbers, that will reduce. Okay. Thereafter, we had discussed that the National Voters Day that we celebrated on 25th January every year is an initiative to inform the new voters about the responsibilities to participate in elections. Okay. And the Election Commission of India, ECI in short, also strives to ensure polling stations must be accessible to everyone, so that if there is someone who is having the disability, people who are living in the remote areas, and the voters who are nearly living far away, they all will get an access to the polling station. They all will get a simple way to the polling station. Special polling booths cater to women, children, and elderly also established. These were known as the model polling booths. Thereafter, the SWIP program. Okay. Basically, the SWIP is designed to educate the voters and boost the electoral participation, particularly in areas with low turnout. It means that, suppose, if we talk about the Indian history, okay, so in the Indian history, the voting powers in the real sense was introduced after the 1952 elections, right? Prior to this, even in India, there was a system of votes. Okay, I'm not saying that there was no voting power and all. There was a system of vote, but not based on the universal adult franchise. The system that existed during the British time, that was purely based on the policies of the Britishers, whom they wanted to give preference to be as a voter, they used to give. not everyone would have the right for voting. But after the 1951 election, every Indian got the right for voting. Okay, if we talk about the areas that are, you can say, the areas that have been exempted from the progress of the country, or the remote areas or the backward areas, the people living in that areas, okay, if we talk about on ground reality, you will find that these peoples are relatively less educated, less exposed one, and you can say less, you can say, rich in comparison with the other modern areas of the country. Okay, so usually they have been listening the stories that only the few could vote. Okay, and even in the some remote areas, you will find that people are even not aware about the democracy and all. Even if you would try to talk with them, they won't be able to talk with you. Why? Because they are mainly illiterate. They do not having a sufficient resources even for their livelihood. So when they will, you can say, give the time for the voting and all right, and that will make the area as a low turnout area. Okay, it means that only those who having some knowledge, only those who having some access, and only those who having some exposure to the voting, they will vote. But the majority of the population will abstain, either you can say intentionally or unintentionally. Okay, so basically that's why the SWIP program was designed. It means that those who are not educated about their voting power, about their rights and all, and how they could change the country's future, how they could change their own future by pooling their vote. So basically those voters should be educated. Okay, and if they will be educated, they will get knowledge about their rights, they will get the power of their votes. Then what will happen? They will start participation in the voting, and that will boost the electoral participation. Got it? ECI maintains a flexible election system by addressing concerns and implementing solutions. Okay, such as introducing the VP80. Like in the previous lecture, we had discussed that basically Election Commission of India is not only responsible towards the voters, but also responsible towards the candidates. Okay, it means that all the hearings, all the procedures, all the actions are not one-sided, but two-sided. Flexible and accessible for the voters, flexible and accessible for the candidates. Got it? So we have discussed about the VP80. It means that basically what happened in the, you can say, past two elections, there was a concern that was raised by the opposition parties about the hacking of the EVM machine. Like EVM machine is an electronic machine that could be hacked. That was their point of view. Even the Supreme Court of India denied that the EVM machines could not be hacked as the opposition parties were claiming. But then what happened? Because it is the responsibility of the Election Commission of India, they should address the concerns and they should implement the solutions. So basically the Election Commission of India played a responsibility towards the candidates also in this case, and then they introduced the VP80. So basically prior to VP80, what was the system? Like suppose you are going to the EVM machine, all right, and you will get a different parties logos on the EVM machine. Okay, against the logos there was a button. The button which you will press, okay, and it is against which party logo, the vote will be automatically pulled to that party. For example, if you press the button against the Lotus, what will happen? BJP will get the vote. If you will press the button against the hand, Congress will get the vote. If you will press the button against the cycle, the Samajwadi Party will get the vote. So there is the thing. All right. So basically, the concern was that even the one is pressing the button against the political party logo of another party, but deliberately the votes are going to one party only. That was their allegations. So that's why the Election Commission of India introduced the VP80. It means that whenever the candidate will whenever the voter will press the button to vote some candidate, all right, So when he will press the button, suppose if he press the button against the you can say any party, XYZ party, okay, then what will happen? In the side of the EVM machine, there will be a transparent screen. On the transparent screen, up to 7 seconds, the political logo of that particular party, XYZ party, about which he has given his vote, that will show up. And that is for the verification that the voter should ensure that this logo is the same logo against which he had pressed the button. Okay, if it is same, the vote will count. Okay, if it is not same, then it is the responsibility of the voter. He should inform the electoral officers immediately and they will find the solution of it. All right. To ensure clean elections, the ECI and the courts, basically they have mandated it compulsory that the candidates who are contesting the elections, they should disclose any criminal records if they have. Okay. And this will reduce the influence of the criminal elements in the politics. Got it? So this is all about the explanation of the voting and approach that we have discussed. Now we are going to talk about the meaning of voting behavior. Okay. So far we have talked about the history and all. Okay. That is just for the build up so that you would be able to understand that why does the votes matter. Okay. Why does the democracy solely dependent upon the voting? Why does we have to talk about the voting behavior. All right. So if we start with the voting behavior. So remember, voting behavior is also known as the electoral behavior. Okay. So remember both the terms, the voting behavior and the electoral behavior, they both are same. Okay. And it is a form of the political behavior. It is the form of the political behavior. Implies the behavior of voters in the context of elections in the democratic political system. Alright, like we know, whenever we talk about the democracy, then democracy is solely dependent upon the choosing of the government or the participation in the government by the people. Alright, and this could be ensured through direct way or indirect way. Like we know, in the direct way, the people of the country directly participates in the policy makings. But in the indirect way, the people of the country elects representatives through the voting, and these representatives have the responsibilities that they should reflect the opinion of their you can say constituency people in the policy making. All right. So basically, what is the behavior of voters? On which basis they select one candidate or reject other? This is all comes under the voting behavior. And this is quite important because whatsoever candidate will get selected to the system, he or she will get a chance to govern the country up to a certain period, like 5 years in India. All right. So basically the 5 years is a huge time. Okay. 5 years is not a short time. In 5 years, whatsoever policies the selected candidate or the elected candidate will make, that policies could affect the country internally, regionally, or even the internationally. All right. That's why it is become quite important to understand that on the basis, or you can say on which basis the voters select their candidates. Okay. So basically we can say voting behavior or the study of voting behavior is defined in the following way. Plan 1, risks. Voting behavior is a field of study concerned with the ways in which people tend to vote in public elections and the reasons why they vote as to. Okay, what we have seen, voting behavior is a field of study concerned with the ways in which people tend to vote in public elections and reasons why they vote as to. First thing, after this, if we talk about the other definition, that is from the Gordon Marshall. The study of voting behavior invariably focus on the determinants of why people vote as they do and how they arrive at the decision they make. Okay, like why the people is going for the voting, what motivates them to go to the booth, or you can say a polling booth, and then selected the candidate, and why they have made the decision to select that candidates. All right, after this, Oinam Kulabidu, voting behavior may be defined as the behavior that explicitly, or you can say explicitly, reflects voter choices, preferences, alternatives, ideologies, concerns, agreements, programs. Okay, choices, preferences, alternatives, ideologies, okay, concerns, agreements, programs in respect of various issues, questions pertaining to the society and nations. Okay, like whatever candidate you are selecting, that candidate will belong to some political party. All right, and whatever political party, whatever candidate you are selecting, so you are basically giving the support to their ideologies. All right, and this will, you can say, affect the country's future. Why? Because suppose if like you, others also vote for the same and they got the majority, then they will form the government. So basically whatsoever decision you are right now taking, that could influence the others also. Okay, so that is the gravity, that is the basic gravity of voting behavior and all. Thereafter, the Stephen Westby, the study of voting behavior involves an analysis of individual psychological makeup and their relation to the political action, as well as the institutional patterns such as the communication process and their impact on elections. All right, these are the things. Okay, so I don't think that we have a sufficient time to start with the significance of the voting behavior. All right, so basically what happened that in this entire lecture we have discussed about the voting behavior, what is the meaning of this, even we have taken the explanation of the previous topic that we have studied. Okay, so basically students, just make sure you will understand, you will revise all the facts and figures whatever we have discussed, and this could be done, okay, when you will intentionally revise them. Okay, just I will motivate you, that will not help you. You are required to do it by your own. Okay, so with this note, let's end this lecture, and thank you.